The alarm bells rang across the Galactic Council building. Every screen turned red at the same moment. Representatives from 60 different alien worlds stopped talking and looked up. Something bad was happening. A distress signal was coming from the outer edge of known space. Ambassador Velnus stood up from his seat. His thin gray hands shook as he read the message on his screen. His people, the Velnar, had a mining colony on a distant planet called Talos 7. That colony was under attack right now. The message was desperate. Raiders had surrounded the entire settlement. The protective shields were breaking down. People needed help immediately or they would die. The council chamber filled with worried voices talking over each other. Everyone knew about these raiders. They called themselves the Kragoth. For 20 years, these brutal warriors had attacked peaceful colonies across the galaxy. They were strong and cruel. They wore heavy armor and carried powerful weapons. They showed no mercy to anyone. Dozens of colonies had already fallen to their attacks. The Kragoth took whatever they wanted and destroyed the rest. Velnus spoke to the council with a breaking voice. We must send help to them. There are children in that colony. Families. Workers. They cannot defend themselves against the Kragoth. Please, someone must go. The council leaders looked at each other with troubled faces. The problem was clear but terrible. Most of their military ships were busy fighting other battles in different parts of the galaxy. The few ships that were available were too far away from Talos 7. By the time any council ship could reach the colony, it would already be too late. The people would be dead. One council member spoke quietly. The nearest patrol ship is 6 days away from that location. The colony shields will fail in just a few hours, not days. Velnus sat down slowly. His whole body seemed to collapse. His people were known as one of the weakest species in the galaxy. They evolved on a peaceful world with calm weather and no predators. They needed special environments just to survive. Fighting was not something they knew how to do. Without military help from stronger species, the colony had no chance at all. Far away from the council chambers in a different part of space, Captain Una sat in her command chair aboard her ship. She was human. Her vessel was named the Resolute Dawn. It was not the biggest ship flying through space. It was not the most powerful warship in the galaxy. But the ship was fast and its crew knew their jobs well. Una had short black hair and eyes that missed nothing. She wore a simple dark uniform with her captain's badge on the shoulder. Around her on the bridge, the crew worked at their stations. They checked systems and monitored empty space. They did the normal boring work of a ship on routine patrol. The communications officer suddenly called out, "Captain, I am picking up something strange on the emergency channel." "It is a distress call." Una leaned forward in her chair. "Put it through the speakers." The message played for everyone to hear. It came from the Velnar colony. The voice speaking was frightened and desperate. In the background, children were crying. Weapon fire could be heard clearly. The speaker begged for anyone listening to help them. Then the message stopped suddenly. The bridge went completely quiet. Every crew member had heard the message. They all understood what it meant. Innocent people were dying right now. Una spoke calmly. "How far are we from that location?" Tejo was her tactical officer. He worked quickly at his computer console. Tejo was tall with a serious face. Before joining this crew, he had served in Earth's Special Forces for 10 years. He knew everything about combat and battle tactics. Tejo looked up from his screen. "We can reach them in 14 hours if we push the engines hard. We are closer than any council ship in this sector." Una nodded once. She touched the communication panel on her chair. "Open a priority channel to the Galactic Council immediately." It took a few minutes for the connection to go through. When the council appeared on the main screen, they looked surprised to see a human ship calling them. Humans were still very new to the galactic community. Earth had only made first contact with alien life 3 years ago. Many council members knew almost nothing about humans or Earth. The council leader spoke first. "Captain Una of Earth, we have received the same distress call you heard. We are currently working on sending a response team." Una spoke directly. "We can reach the colony in 14 hours. My crew and I are volunteering to attempt the rescue mission." The council members looked at each other with confused expressions. Some seemed doubtful. Ambassador Velnus stepped forward quickly. Hope filled his gray face for the first time. Velnus asked quietly, "You would truly do this? You would risk your lives for people you have never met?" Una answered simply, Yes, that is what we do. The council leader cleared his throat. Captain Yuna, we do appreciate your offer very much. But you must understand the danger here. The Kragoth are experienced warriors who have never lost a battle. They evolved on a high-gravity world. They are large and strong and heavily armed. Your species is still new to us. We do not know if you have the capabilities for this kind of mission. Taiho spoke up from his station. Sir, I believe Earth is classified as a Class 12 Deathworld in your official database. You might want to look at what that classification actually means. The council leader paused. He looked at something on a screen that the humans could not see. His face changed color. The expression became shocked, he whispered. Class 12, that is the highest danger rating possible. Most species in the galaxy consider such worlds completely uninhabitable. Yuna said calmly. We call that world home. So do you want our help or not? Because those colonists do not have much time left. The council had no real choice to make. Every other available ship was too far away. If they refused help from the humans, the Velnar colony would definitely fall. Everyone there would die. If they accepted help from these unknown humans, at least there was some small chance of survival. The council leader made his decision. You have our official authorization to proceed. May fortune favor you in this mission, Captain. Yuna ended the connection. She stood up from her chair and looked at each member of her crew. She spoke clearly. You all heard the message from that colony. We have 14 hours to prepare ourselves. This will not be easy. The Kragoth have never lost a fight. They will outnumber us badly. They will have more weapons than us. But they have never fought humans before. They do not know what we can do. She walked across the bridge and looked each crew member in the eyes. Yuna continued giving orders. Taiho, I want all weapons ready and tactical plans for every possible scenario. Wujin, push those engines as hard as they can possibly go. Hana, prepare the medical bay for treating casualties. Ji-hoon, send a message back to the colony. Tell them that help is coming. Tell them to hold on just a little longer. The crew moved quickly to complete their tasks. Yuna returned to her command chair. She pulled up information files about the Kragoth on her personal screen. They were impressive warriors by normal galactic standards, big and armored and trained for combat. They had conquered dozens of worlds, but the Kragoth had never encountered humans in battle. They did not know that humans evolved by chasing prey across endless distances until the prey collapsed from exhaustion. They did not know that human bodies could heal from terrible injuries that would kill most other species. They did not know that humans could survive extreme temperatures and pressures and toxic conditions that most beings found instantly lethal. Most importantly, the Kragoth did not understand one simple fact about humans. When someone threatened innocent people, when someone hurt the weak and helpless, when someone thought they could win through cruelty and violence alone, humans stopped being explorers and scientists. They became the most dangerous predators in the entire universe. The Resolute Dawn turned toward the Talos 7 system. Its engines burned bright as the ship accelerated to maximum speed. Inside the ship, the human crew prepared themselves for battle. They checked their weapons carefully. They reviewed tactical plans. They made themselves ready for what was coming. The galaxy had no idea what was about to arrive at that distant besieged colony. The Kragoth certainly had no idea. They were about to learn a very hard lesson about the universe. Earth's children were coming to help, and they were bringing all the fury and determination of humanity's deadliest Deathworlde with them. The Resolute Dawn came out of hyperspace at the edge of the Talos 7 star system. Immediately, warning alarms started ringing across the bridge. Red lights flashed on every sensor screen. The ship's computer had detected hostile contacts. Taiho read his tactical display quickly. Captain, I count 6 Kragoth warships in orbit around the planet. They are maintaining a blockade formation. Sensors show the colony shields are down to 15% strength and still dropping. Yuna studied the enemy ship positions on the main viewing screen. The Kragoth vessels were massive compared to her ship. They were covered in thick armor plating. Weapons bristled from every surface. Each enemy ship was 3 times larger than the Resolute Dawn. Together, the 6 ships represented overwhelming firepower that could destroy anything. Yuna spoke calmly. Give me a full analysis, Taiho. Taiho worked at his console, pulling up detailed information. Their formation follows standard intimidation patterns. They appear very confident in their position, perhaps too confident. They have positioned their ships to create maximum fear, rather than maximum defensive capability. They are clearly expecting no real resistance from anyone. Wu Jin added from the engineering station. This makes sense, Captain. The Kragoth are used to fighting species that surrender immediately. Nobody ever fights back against them. The victims just try to survive as long as possible. Hana looked up from her medical station. Captain, I am detecting life signs on the planet's surface still. The colony is definitely still there and people are still alive. But those shield generators are failing very fast. My estimate is maybe 30 minutes before complete failure. Yuna nodded once. 30 minutes. That was all the time they had to work with. She touched the communication panel on her chair. Yuna spoke clearly. This is Captain Yuna of the human vessel Resolute Dawn calling all Kragoth ships. You are currently attacking a peaceful mining colony. Leave this system now or you will face serious consequences. For a long moment, only silence came back through the speakers. Then a harsh growling voice responded. The voice sounded angry and arrogant. The Kragoth commander spoke. Human, we have heard rumors of your kind recently. Weak little creatures from some unknown world far away. You dare to challenge the mighty Kragoth? Leave this system now and we will allow you to live. Stay here and you will die with the colonists. Teho sent a private text message to Yuna's personal screen. He is trying to stall us, Captain. His sensors are scanning our ship. He probably thinks we are going to run away. Yuna allowed herself a small smile. Open a direct channel to the Galactic Council observers. I want them to watch everything that happens next. She stood up from her command chair. Kragoth Commander, this is your final warning. Leave those colonists alone right now. This is your last chance to withdraw peacefully. The Kragoth commander laughed loudly. It was a deep rumbling sound full of contempt. You captain just one small ship. We command 6 powerful warships. We are Kragoth warriors. We have never known defeat in battle. What can one tiny ship of humans possibly do against us? Yuna looked at her crew. Let us show them exactly what humans can do. All hands to battle stations immediately. Teho, execute attack plan Omega right now. The Resolute Dawn suddenly shot forward. The ship accelerated faster than the Kragoth had expected possible. It dove straight toward their formation at a speed that made all their threat sensors light up with urgent warnings. A Kragoth tactical officer shouted in alarm. Impossible. No crew can survive those acceleration forces. They should be crushed in their seats. But humans could survive it easily. Earth's gravity was much stronger than most inhabited worlds in the galaxy. Human bodies were built naturally to handle intense pressure that would kill other species. The crew felt the powerful force pushing them hard into their seats, but they endured it without problems. They had trained for exactly this their entire lives. The Resolute Dawn shot between 2 massive Kragoth warships like an arrow. As the human ship passed by them, it fired weapons at very precise points. The shots were not random at all. Teho had carefully identified weak spots in the enemy armor, places where their defensive shields overlapped poorly. Spots the Kragoth never thought to defend properly because nobody had ever attacked them there before. Bright explosions blossomed across the hull of the first Kragoth ship. Its primary weapon systems went completely offline. The second enemy ship turned heavily to pursue the humans, but Yuna was already executing another impossible maneuver. The Resolute Dawn twisted and rolled through space, moving in patterns that would kill most crews from the extreme forces alone. A Kragoth gunner screamed into his communication system. Their pilot must be insane. Nobody can fly a ship like that and survive. But humans could do it. They evolved hunting fast prey across rough terrain on Earth. They developed incredible balance and spatial awareness that allowed them to track movement in 3 dimensions naturally. Human pilots did not just fly their ships like vehicles. They became part of the ships themselves. The space battle continued to unfold. The Resolute Dawn was much smaller and faster than the enemy. It could not possibly match the Kragoth in pure firepower, but it did not need to match them. Yuna used superior speed and precision instead. She hit the enemy ships where it hurt them most. She moved in ways they could not predict or counter. Wu Jin rerouted power from the life support systems to the engines and weapons. The oxygen levels inside the ship dropped noticeably. The temperature fell several degrees. Most alien species would panic immediately, but humans could function fine in low oxygen environments. They evolved living at various altitudes on Earth. Their bodies knew how to adapt to thin air automatically. Teho called out calmly, "Firing pattern beta now." Another series of perfectly placed shots disabled a third Kragoth warship. Its main engine sputtered and died completely. The Kragoth commander finally began to understand the terrible truth. This was not a normal space battle. This small ship and its crew of unknown aliens were fighting in ways that seemed physically impossible. They were taking damage that should have destroyed their vessel. They were surviving flight conditions that should have killed the entire crew. The Kragoth commander roared into his communication system. His voice actually shook with an emotion the Kragoth rarely felt. Fear. What are you creatures? What kind of beings are we fighting? Tejo responded in a perfectly calm voice. We already told you exactly what we are. We are human. We come from Earth. A fourth Kragoth ship attempted a desperate ramming maneuver. It was the move of someone who had run out of better options. Yuna saw it coming well in advance. She waited until the very last possible second, then rolled her ship sideways. The massive Kragoth warship missed them by just a few meters. As the enemy ship passed by, Tejo fired directly into its exposed underside. The Kragoth ship's reactor went critical. The crew barely had enough time to evacuate in escape pods before their entire ship exploded in a brilliant flash. The remaining Kragoth ships began to retreat from the battle. Their tight formation broke apart completely. Ships that had never run from any fight were now fleeing from a single human vessel. Tejo asked, "Should we pursue them and finish this, Captain?" Yuna shook her head. "No, the colony must be our priority now. Begin descent to the planet's surface." The Resolute Dawn turned away from the fleeing enemies and headed toward the planet below. Behind them, 2 damaged Kragoth ships limped away into deep space. One more enemy ship tried to continue fighting. Tejo launched a single missile at it. The missile was a human design, built to work in Earth's harsh electromagnetic environment. The Kragoth had never encountered anything like it. All their defensive systems failed completely. The missile struck directly into their bridge. The enemy ship went dark and drifted powerless. As the Resolute Dawn entered the planet's atmosphere, the Galactic Council observers sat watching in complete stunned silence. In less than 15 minutes, humans had accomplished what no species had ever done before. They had defeated the legendary Kragoth in open space combat. Yuna gave new orders to her crew. Prepare all landing teams for ground deployment. The space battle is finished. The ground fight is just beginning now. The ship descended through thick clouds toward the besieged colony below. Sensors showed Kragoth ground forces completely surrounding the settlement. The screens displayed hundreds of enemy warriors. Heavy weapons everywhere. Strong defensive positions established. Hana pulled up the colony layout on her display. The civilian population is sheltering inside the central compound, Captain. Kragoth forces have already breached the outer defensive walls. Our people are trapped inside with no way out. Yuna studied the tactical display carefully. The situation on the ground looked even worse than the space battle had been. Many more enemies to fight. Much less room to maneuver. The Kragoth would be ready and prepared this time. Tejo began assembling the landing team quickly. 20 soldiers total, including himself and Minho, who was their best combat specialist. Every soldier checked their weapons and armor carefully. They reviewed the terrain maps. They prepared themselves mentally for a battle that most military experts would consider completely unwinnable. But they were human soldiers. Unwinnable was just another word for challenging. The human team moved through the darkness like ghosts hunting prey. Yuna led from the front position, her sharp eyes scanning the terrain ahead constantly. Behind her, 20 soldiers advanced in perfect formation. They made absolutely no sound. They left no visible traces. The Kragoth sensors monitoring the area detected nothing at all on their screens. Tejo crouched down beside a large rock formation. He pulled up a holographic map of the entire colony. Small red dots marked every enemy position. There were hundreds of them spread across the map. The Kragoth had surrounded the settlement completely from all sides. They controlled every possible approach and every exit route. Tejo whispered quietly to Yuna. They have heavy weapons positioned on all the high ground around the colony. This is a standard siege formation. They are simply waiting for the shields to fail completely. Then they will move in and take everything. Minho crawled up beside them silently. He was studying the enemy positions through his weapon scope. They look relaxed out there. Very confident. They think they have already won this battle. Yuna nodded slowly. That confidence is their first big mistake. What is the terrain like between our position and the colony? Tejo highlighted several areas on the glowing map. There is a ravine system running through here. It goes very close to the colony walls. The major problem is that these ravines are filled with toxic gas vents. The air down there would kill most known species in just a few minutes of exposure. Yuna repeated his words carefully. Most species. But not humans, she was absolutely right. Earth had many places with toxic air. Volcanic regions that released poisonous gases. Chemical deposits that created deadly fumes. Swamps filled with methane. Humans had learned over millions of years to filter bad air through their respiratory systems. They could hold their breath for long periods. They could survive where the air itself tried to kill them. Yuna made her decision. We use those ravines for our approach. Split into 4 separate teams. Approach from different angles. The Kragoth will not expect us to use routes they consider completely impossible to traverse. The teams moved out to their assigned positions. Yuna's group entered the ravine system first. Immediately, the air quality dropped to dangerous levels. Thick yellow gas rose from cracks in the rocky ground. The sensors on their suits began screaming urgent warnings. Most species would have turned back immediately in panic. The humans kept moving forward. They activated the filters on their suits and controlled their breathing carefully. The toxic gas stung their eyes badly and burned their throats, but they endured the pain. Pain was just information to process. Discomfort was just another challenge to overcome. They had all trained in much worse conditions back on Earth. Above them on the ridge, a Kragoth patrol moved along their regular route. The alien warriors never looked down into the poisonous ravine below. Why would they bother? Nothing could possibly survive in that extremely toxic environment. It never even occurred to them that human soldiers were passing directly beneath their position. Minho's team discovered the first real obstacle blocking their path. A Kragoth weapon emplacement was set up right in their way. 3 large warriors operated a heavy plasma cannon. The massive weapon could easily destroy anything that tried to approach the colony from that direction. Minho signaled his team to stop moving and stay completely still. They pressed their bodies against the ravine walls, hidden perfectly in deep shadows. Minho studied the enemy position very carefully. The Kragoth were physically strong and well-armed, but they were also quite predictable. They followed standard military tactics exactly. They did what their training manual said to do. Humans wrote completely new manuals every single day. Minho grabbed a handful of loose rocks from the ground. He threw one rock far to the left side. It clattered loudly against stone. The 3 Kragoth warriors immediately turned their heavy weapon toward the sound. While they were distracted looking the wrong way, Minho and 2 soldiers climbed silently out of the ravine directly behind the enemy position. The fight ended in just seconds. The humans moved with terrifying speed and perfect precision. The Kragoth never understood what hit them. One moment they were alert and ready for battle. The next moment all 3 warriors were unconscious on the ground. Minho reported quietly through his communication link. Position secured successfully. Continuing our advance now. Similar scenes happened across the entire battlefield. Human teams appeared in places the Kragoth thought were completely impossible to reach. They moved through toxic zones that should have killed them. They climbed unstable cliffs that should have collapsed. They crossed terrain that absolutely should have been impassable. Earth had taught them to adapt to anything, to overcome every obstacle, to survive against all odds. Taiho's team finally reached the colony's outer wall. He could hear fierce fighting happening on the other side. Velnar defenders were making a desperate last stand. The Kragoth were pushing very hard against the final defensive positions. Taiho said quietly, "We need to balance these odds in our favor." He pulled out a device that looked quite simple but was actually very complex inside. It was a human disruption field generator. The device was originally designed to work in Earth's intense magnetic environment. It could scramble most types of alien electronics completely. He activated the device with one button press. Across the entire battlefield, every Kragoth communication system went completely silent. Their tactical displays went totally dark. Their carefully coordinated attack suddenly became pure chaos. A Kragoth commander shouted desperately. His communicator only crackled with useless static. "What is happening?" "Report immediately." "All units report your status." There was no answer at all. The Kragoth forces were completely cut off from each other. They could not coordinate their movements. They could not share any information. They could not call for support or reinforcements. Every warrior was suddenly alone in the dark. That was the exact moment when Yuna's team attacked. They came over the colony walls like a fierce storm. Human soldiers moved with speed that completely shocked the Kragoth. The aliens were much bigger and physically stronger, but the humans were so much faster, more precise in their movements, more determined in their purpose. The battle became very close and extremely personal. The Kragoth discovered that humans were natural ambush predators with binocular vision. They could track multiple different targets at the same time. They could hit weak points in armor with terrifying accuracy, and they never stopped moving forward. One large Kragoth warrior swung his heavy weapon hard at a human soldier. The human ducked smoothly under the attack, moved inside the alien's reach, and struck 3 perfectly precise blows. The Kragoth warrior fell down, completely stunned by the incredible speed and skill. Another Kragoth shouted in confusion. "They are too fast!" How can they possibly be so fast? Speed was always relative. On Earth, humans had to be fast just to survive another day. They evolved both chasing prey and fleeing from predators. Their reaction times were absolutely incredible by galactic standards. What seemed impossibly quick to the Kragoth was completely normal for human beings. The tide of battle shifted dramatically. The Kragoth forces began falling back in disorder. They were confused and completely disorganized. Their technological advantage was gone. Their superior numbers did not matter anymore when they could not coordinate their actions. Then the Kragoth commander made a truly terrible decision. He ordered his remaining forces to release a biological weapon, a deadly gas that would incapacitate all the defenders. The weapon had worked perfectly on other colonies before. It would work here too. Metal canisters opened across the battlefield. Thick green gas spread rapidly through the air. Velnar defenders collapsed immediately, completely overcome by the powerful toxin. The Kragoth wore protective gear, so they remained safe from their own weapon. They fully expected the human soldiers to fall down too. Instead, something seemingly impossible happened. The humans just kept fighting without stopping. Back on the Resolute Dawn, Hana had been carefully monitoring the entire battle. When her sensors detected the biological weapon release, she immediately began analyzing it. Her medical computer broke down all its components in just seconds. The toxin was extremely deadly to most species. It attacked the nervous system directly and shut down all breathing. But humans possessed immune systems that evolved, fighting Earth's countless diseases. Bacteria that mutated constantly and rapidly, viruses that adapted and changed forms, parasites of every imaginable type, fungi, toxins, biological threats of every possible kind. The human immune system was essentially a biological war machine. Hana transmitted urgent information to all ground teams. The toxin is based on a standard nerve agent. Your bodies will fight it naturally through your immune response. Symptoms will be temporary only. Keep fighting and do not stop. The human soldiers definitely felt the effects of the poison. Dizziness affected their balance. Their vision blurred significantly. Breathing became quite difficult. But they did not fall down unconscious. Their bodies immediately began producing antibodies to fight the toxin. Their enhanced healing abilities kicked in automatically. They pushed through the pain and kept moving forward. The Kragoth warriors watched. The central compound building rose from the colony center like a fortress. Its walls were extremely thick and heavily reinforced. The Kragoth had turned this structure into their final stronghold. Inside those strong walls, 20 terrified Velnar children waited in fear for their fate. Yuna stood hidden in the shadows just outside the compound. She studied the structure very carefully. Ji-hoon crouched beside her with his communicator active. He had been talking to the trapped Velnar civilians inside for the past several minutes. Ji-hoon reported quietly. The children are being held in a shielded chamber on the lower level of the building. The Kragoth leader is a warrior named Grath. He is using the children as leverage against us. Grath says if we attack the building, he will activate the chamber's self-destruct system immediately. Taiho was examining the building's detailed schematics on his tactical display. The chamber where they are holding the children is very deep inside the structure. All the direct approach routes are completely covered by automated defense systems. Heavy weapons at every turn, energy barriers blocking the corridors, motion sensors everywhere. Any kind of frontal assault would definitely trigger the self-destruct before we could possibly reach those children. Yuna asked the critical question. How much time would a traditional siege approach take? Taiho calculated quickly. 3 days minimum for a proper siege. We would need to systematically disable each defensive layer one at a time, but the children's life support system will fail completely in just 12 hours. The Galactic Council observers were listening to the entire conversation through their monitors. One council member spoke up on the open communication channel. The observer said carefully, "Captain Yuna, perhaps diplomatic negotiation would be the wisest course of action here. The Kragoth might agree to release the children safely if we allow their forces to escape without pursuit." Yuna's expression became very hard and cold. These warriors have already proven they cannot be trusted at all. Besides, we absolutely do not negotiate with anyone who uses innocent children as shields for their cowardice. She turned to face Wu Jin directly. "You have been studying the compound structure carefully. Tell me there is another way inside this building." Wu Jin pulled up extremely detailed sensor scans. His fingers traced glowing lines through the holographic display. "There is a ventilation system that runs through the entire compound. It connects directly to the chamber where the children are being held." Yuna asked immediately, "Can we use it to get inside?" Wu Jin's expression was very grim. "The ventilation shafts are completely filled with superheated steam. The temperature readings show over 200 degrees consistently. There are also sections with dangerous radiation leaks and toxic chemical residue throughout. Any species with normal physiology would be dead within just minutes of exposure." Yuna repeated his key words. "Any normal species with normal physiology." She looked directly at Taiho. "But humans are not normal by galactic standards." Taiho understood her meaning immediately. "We can do this. Our environmental suits are specifically rated for extreme conditions. We have trained in much worse environments back on Earth." The Galactic Council observers protested strongly. "Captain, this plan is pure suicide. The heat alone will kill you within minutes. Even if your suits provide some protection temporarily, they will fail eventually. Nobody can possibly survive in that environment for long." Yuna completely ignored their protests. "Taiho, Wu Jin, you are both with me on this. We go through the ventilation system. You keep the Kragoth forces busy and distracted. Make them believe we are planning a traditional frontal assault. Jihun, maintain constant contact with the Velnar inside. Let them know we are coming to save them." The teams moved quickly into their assigned positions. Yuna, Taiho, and Wu Jin located the ventilation entrance on the compound's outer wall. The opening was quite small, barely large enough for a person to squeeze through. Intense heat poured out constantly like a roaring furnace. Yuna gave the order. "Suits to maximum protection mode immediately." They activated their environmental suits to full power. These were human engineering designs, built specifically to protect people working in Earth's most extreme locations. Active volcanic vents deep underground, ocean trenches with crushing pressure, Arctic storms with killing cold, chemical wastelands with toxic everything. Yuna entered the shaft first. The heat hit her immediately, even through the protective suit. The temperature gauge on her helmet display climbed rapidly higher. 200 degrees, 250 degrees, 300 degrees. The metal walls around her glowed bright red from the heat. Wu Jin reported from directly behind her. "Suits are holding for now, but we have maybe 30 minutes maximum before the cooling systems fail completely." They crawled painfully through the narrow passages. The heat was absolutely intense and overwhelming. Sweat poured down Yuna's face inside her helmet. Her muscles ached terribly from both the temperature and the cramped position, but she kept moving forward without stopping. Humans evolved the ability to regulate their body temperature through sweating. They could survive heat levels that would literally cook most other species alive. Taiho checked his navigation map. "Next section ahead has significant radiation. Levels are high enough to be fatal with prolonged exposure to most life." Yuna asked. "How long is prolonged exactly?" Taiho answered. "For most known species, 5 minutes of exposure. For humans, we might have 15 minutes before we suffer serious permanent damage." They entered the radioactive section without hesitation. Yuna's suit immediately began beeping urgent warnings at her. Her personal radiation badge slowly changed color. The exposure was absolutely real and very dangerous. But humans had learned to understand radiation. They could work in radioactive environments for short periods when necessary. They pushed forward as fast as possible. Every single minute counted now. Behind them, Wu Jin's suit was starting to overheat badly. The engineer's breathing became noticeably labored and strained. Yuna called back. "Wu Jin, give me a status report." Wu Jin responded with difficulty. His voice was strained with pain. "Primary cooling system is failing rapidly. Suit integrity down to 60% and dropping." They reached a junction where highly toxic gas completely filled the passage ahead. The sensors showed it was a chemical compound that attacked organic tissue directly, highly corrosive, extremely deadly to breathe. At that exact moment, Wu Jin's suit failed completely. The protective seals broke and extremely hot. Toxic air rushed inside. The engineer gasped involuntarily as the dangerous fumes hit his lungs directly. Taiho immediately moved to help him. "Wu Jin!" But Wu Jin waved him off with one hand. "Keep going forward. I will manage somehow." He took one deep breath and held it inside his lungs, then another very shallow breath, filtering what he could through his badly damaged suit. The Galactic Council observers watched in complete shock. He should be dead instantly. Those fumes would dissolve lung tissue in seconds. But human lungs were incredibly tough organs. They evolved in an atmosphere that other species found quite harsh. They could filter out particles and pollutants. They could handle various toxins. Wu Jin's lungs were burning painfully, and he would definitely need serious medical treatment later, but he could survive long enough to complete this critical mission. They crawled onward through the nightmare. The passage became even more narrow. Yuna had to squeeze through gaps that seemed completely impossible. But humans were remarkably flexible. They could contort their bodies in ways that genuinely surprised other species. Finally, they reached a ventilation grate that opened into the chamber where the children were held. Yuna peered carefully through the metal grate. Below her, she could see 20 small Velnar huddled together in obvious fear. 2 large Kragoth guards stood watch over them with weapons ready. But between the ventilation opening and the frightened children was a serious problem. The entire chamber was rigged with powerful explosives. Motion sensors covered every single surface. One wrong move and absolutely everything would detonate instantly. Wu Jin examined the security system despite his damaged suit and burning lungs. This is very sophisticated work. The sensors are designed to detect most electromagnetic signatures, heat patterns, and any movement above a certain threshold. Yuna noted his specific words. Most signatures. What about specifically human signatures? Wu Jin studied his scanner readings carefully. Human neural patterns are significantly different from other known species. More chaotic, more variable, less predictable. The automated system might not recognize human patterns as actual threats. It was an extremely slim chance, but it was still a chance. Yuna made her decision instantly. "I am going in alone. If the sensors trigger and detonate, you two get those children out through the ventilation shaft immediately." Taiho started to protest, but Yuna was already moving. She very carefully removed the ventilation grate. The 2 Kragoth guards were looking toward the main door, clearly expecting an attack from that predictable direction. They never thought to look upward. Yuna lowered herself slowly into the chamber. Her heart pounded hard inside her chest. Every single sensor could mean her last moment alive. But she moved with absolute control, slow. The fight between Yuna and Grath shook the entire chamber violently. The massive Kragoth leader was incredibly powerful and extremely experienced in combat. He had personally defeated countless warriors across the galaxy over many years, but he had never fought anyone quite like Yuna before. Grath swung his huge armored fist with terrible force. Yuna rolled smoothly under the attack and struck his knee joint hard. The thick armor cracked slightly. Grath stumbled but recovered very quickly. He grabbed at her with his massive hands. Yuna was already gone, moving fast to his blind side. Grath roared in frustration. "Stop running away like a coward!" But Yuna was not running at all. She was hunting him. Humans were persistence predators by evolution. They did not need to be physically stronger than their prey. They needed to be smarter, faster, more enduring over time. Grath finally landed a solid blow that sent Yuna crashing hard into the wall. Terrible pain exploded through her entire body. Several ribs cracked from the impact. Blood filled her mouth. Any normal being would have stayed down after that. Yuna stood back up. Grath stared at her in complete disbelief. "You should be dead from that hit." Yuna wiped blood from her face. "Humans are very hard to kill. We heal incredibly fast. We endure pain better than most. And we absolutely never stop fighting." She attacked again with renewed determination. This time she was not testing his defenses. She was not probing for weaknesses. She was going directly for victory. Her strikes targeted the same spots repeatedly: the cracked knee armor, the damaged shoulder joint, the weak protective seal at his thick neck. Grath began to slow down noticeably. His movements became increasingly sluggish. He was tiring badly. Humans possessed incredible stamina compared to most species. They could keep fighting long after other beings collapsed from pure exhaustion. Earth's strong gravity had built that amazing endurance into every single muscle. Grath gasped for air. "What are you really?" Una answered simply. "I am human. I come from Earth. We do not give up on anything. We do not surrender to anyone. And we protect those who cannot protect themselves." One final precise strike and Grath fell heavily. The undefeated Kregoth leader lay defeated on the floor at the feet of a human, half his physical size. Up in the ventilation system above, Taiho had successfully gotten all the children to safety. The last child, young Sora, looked back toward the chamber below with concern. Sora asked worriedly, "What about the captain? Is she going to be okay?" Taiho smiled reassuringly. "She will be perfectly fine. She is human. We take care of our own people and we absolutely never leave anyone behind ever." As if to prove his confident words, Una climbed out of the chamber. She was badly battered and bleeding from several wounds, but she was definitely alive. She smiled warmly at all the children. Una asked gently, "Is everyone okay now?" All the children nodded quickly. Relief showed clearly on their small faces. They were finally safe. The terrible nightmare was completely over. The human team made their way carefully back to the colony center. The remaining Kregoth forces had fled in panic when they witnessed their legendary leader fall in combat. The battle was finished. The colony was saved from destruction. Hana immediately began treating all the wounded people. She worked on Wujin first, healing his serious chemical burns and dangerous radiation exposure with expert care. Then she treated Yuna's broken ribs and various other injuries. The Velnar colonists watched in pure amazement as the humans bounced back quickly from wounds that would have killed most beings in the galaxy. One Velnar doctor spoke with wonder. "Your medical knowledge is absolutely incredible, and your bodies heal so remarkably fast." Hana smiled as she worked efficiently. "On Earth, we have to heal fast. Our world has millions of different diseases constantly, countless parasites everywhere, bacteria that mutate and evolve rapidly. Our immune systems learn to fight absolutely everything over time. Our bodies learn to heal very quickly or else die." News of the incredible battle spread across the entire galaxy at the speed of light itself. The Galactic Council had watched absolutely everything happen. They had seen humans defeat the legendary Kregoth in space combat and on the ground. They had watched humans survive extreme conditions that absolutely should have killed them. They had witnessed what true Deathworlders could really accomplish. The council chambers filled completely with representatives from hundreds of different worlds. Everyone wanted to understand the same things. What was Earth that it created such formidable beings? How did humans become so incredibly capable? Ambassador Velnus stood proudly before the entire council. "I formally propose that we recognize humanity as full members of the Galactic Alliance immediately. Not as junior partners, not as probationary members, as complete equals with all rights." Immediate discussion filled the chamber. Some council members expressed worry. Humans were clearly powerful, obviously dangerous. What if they became aggressive toward others? Jihoon addressed the council directly from the colony surface. His message was broadcast to all member worlds simultaneously. Jihoon spoke calmly. "We completely understand your concerns about us. Yes, humans are capable warriors. Yes, we come from an extremely deadly world. But let me tell you what Earth really taught humanity over millions of years." He paused and looked at the Velnar children playing nearby. They were laughing now, all the fear completely gone from their faces. Jihoon continued his explanation. "Earth is beautiful but also very harsh. It has dangerous predators and deadly diseases, terrible storms and earthquakes, active volcanoes and massive floods. Everything on Earth is constantly trying to survive against the odds. Early humans could have become solitary hunters fighting alone. They could have fought each other constantly for limited resources, but they chose differently." Jihoon gestured broadly. "Instead, humans learned to cooperate with each other. We formed close families, then extended tribes, then large communities. We learned to help each other survive the harshness. We domesticated other species and made them part of our family pack. We created beautiful art and music and stories. We built great civilizations together." He pointed to the human soldiers helping repair the damaged colony. "Yes, we are dangerous when we need to be. Yes, we are tough and hard to kill. But we are also genuinely kind. We are endlessly curious. We help those in desperate need. When we heard the Velnar distress call, We did not hesitate for 1 second. We did not calculate the risk to ourselves. We just came immediately because it was the right thing to do. The council listened in complete silence. They had seen humans fight fiercely. Now they were learning exactly what humans fought for. Yuna spoke next. We are not asking to rule over anything. We are not demanding territory or resources from anyone. We just want to be part of the galactic community. We want to explore the universe, to learn everything, to make true friends, and yes, to protect those who desperately need protecting. Wujin added one final important point. Humans are exceptionally good at solving difficult problems. On Earth, we faced complete extinction many times. Ice ages that froze everything, droughts that killed the land, predators hunting us, diseases trying to wipe us out. We survived all of it by being smart, by adapting constantly, by never giving up on anything. We can bring that ability to help the entire galaxy. The official vote was held. World after world cast their decision. When the final count was finished, the result was absolutely clear. Humanity was accepted as full members of the Galactic Alliance with all rights and responsibilities. But there was even more. The Council made another historic decision. They created a completely new classification for Earth. It remained a Class 12 Deathworlde in the database, but now it had an additional special designation. Earth was formally recognized as the training ground for the galaxy's protectors. Human security forces would be offered important positions protecting vulnerable colonies across space. Human engineers would help build better defenses. Human medics would train others in emergency care techniques, and human diplomats would work hard to prevent conflicts before they could start. The Velnar were the very first to request human protection teams. Many other species quickly followed their example, not because they feared humans at all, but because they genuinely trusted them completely. Days later, as the Resolute Dawn prepared to finally leave Talos 7, the Velnar children came to say goodbye to their rescuers. Young Sora approached Yuna carrying a small gift. It was a beautiful crystal from the mines carefully carved into the shape of planet Earth. Sora asked quietly, "Is it really true? That Earth has monsters?" Yuna knelt down to the child's eye level. She thought about the question very carefully before answering. Yuna said honestly, "Yes, it is true. Earth has dangerous predators everywhere, deadly diseases constantly, natural disasters regularly, dangerous places and dangerous creatures. But Earth also has humans living there. And humans decided long ago that the scariest monster is not the biggest one or the strongest one. It is the one that stands between innocent people and harm, the one that fights for others who cannot fight, the one that never backs down when someone desperately needs help." Sora hugged Yuna tightly. "Thank you for being our monster." Yuna hugged the child back warmly. "Anytime, little one. Anytime at all."